You need a top 6 tight end. A flexing Dave Richard is going to tell you right now on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Yeah, we're having fun. We're previewing tight ends. Dave, do you need a top 6 tight end?
I always am looking for a top 6 tight end. Even when 6 tight ends are off the board, I'm looking for tight ends that can finish in the top 6.
Well, yes, you should be. But how important is it to get one of Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Andrews, Hockenson, Pitts?
Do you want your lineup to differentiate from your opponents? Do you want to have an advantage over the rest of your opponents? If so, then getting one of the top 6 and maybe even one of the top 3 tight ends is something you should prioritize in your draft. With Kelsey, he's going to go anywhere from, in PPR, it's going to be 5th overall to maybe 10th, 12th overall if you're lucky. Waller and Kittle, they're going to be the next 2 off the board. They're going to be closer to the end of round 2, beginning of round 3. If you can get either of them in round 3, it's a great bargain. Prioritizing one of those 3 tight ends will help you differentiate your roster, and you will have an edge at tight end with those guys in your lineup, provided that they stay healthy.
Do you think any of their ADPs is, bad? Right now it's Kelsey 9th, Waller and Kittle are 26th, 27th, and then round 5 for the other 3.
I love the Waller ADP. I don't think any of them are bad. Kittle, maybe there's like a tad bit of risk since he's going right after Waller. But if I can get Waller in early round 3 in any single one of my leagues, I'm doing it. That's just awesome value. That means that I've already gotten 2 really good players on my team, and I'm taking the second best tight end in fantasy football with my 3rd pick.
Where do you stand on Kyle Pitts?
I think he's going to be a good player. I don't stand with the people who are like over the moon with him. And there's going to be 2 or 3 people in every fantasy draft that see Kyle Pitts as the next great fantasy tight end. And they're going to take him in round 4. They're going to spend the pick. They're going to reach for him. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. I don't know if it's a great idea because it's far more likely that he'll end up with, call it 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. And that's really good for a tight end. But there are going to be a lot of other players on the board if he goes in that late round 4 range that have potential for over 1,000 yards, at least 8 touchdowns, if not more, not to mention all the quarterbacks that are going to be able to be taken in that range. I think he's a reach at that spot. I'm comfortable taking him a full round later. Late round 5 is where I'm looking for KP.
If Kyle Pitts does not have a big season, no one will ever draft a rookie tight end again. All right, so let's say we don't get a top 6 tight end. What's your fallback plan?
It's the phrase that we've kind of coined on the podcast. It's great or late, meaning if you don't get one of those first 6, you're going to wait till the late rounds to pick up at least 1 tight end, if not 2. And the type of tight end that you're looking for late are guys that can finish either 1st or 2nd on their team in targets, or guys that are going to get so many red zone targets that they finish the year with 8 or 9 touchdowns, something crazy like that, because that's what tight ends are. If you're not one of those stud tight ends, you're hoping that they stumble into 70 yards and or a touchdown in a given week. And if it's PPR, you add 4 catches on top of that. 11 PPR points is good for a fantasy tight end outside of the big 3. If you're tight end, if you've got Kelsey and he gets you 11 PPR points, I think you'll be a little bit disappointed. Yeah. But there are some sleeper tight ends and there are some late round tight ends that kind of fit the profile, that have a chance to finish 1st or 2nd in targets, score a lot of touchdowns, have some decent yardage games over the course of the year, and maybe guys that can get you those 11 PPR fantasy points 40% of the time.
All right, so some of your favorite sleepers?
Adam Trautman's a guy that I've been talking about, honestly, since the Senior Bowl in 2020. I've loved him. Huge opportunity for him now in New Orleans. I think Jonnu Smith is a real talent. I know that his numbers haven't stood out that way. He was with the Titans. They were a low-volume passing offense. Now he's with the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are suddenly going to become a crazy passing offense. But when Mac Jones gets there, they will definitely throw more than run. And I think he's got a chance to lead that team in targets. That's something that's appealing to me about Jonnu Smith. Irv Smith won't lead the Vikings in targets, at least as long as Jefferson and Thielen are healthy, but he's one of those red zone mavens. Nearly a quarter of his targets came in the red zone. He's having a great camp. He is a mismatch for Minnesota to utilize on offense, and it wouldn't surprise me if he had 8 touchdowns. And then there's Noah Fant, who's never really quite put it all together for more than like 3 games in a row. And I'm a little concerned about him being 1st or 2nd on his team in targets. I think it's more likely that he's 3rd. And he's never really been a big red zone weapon. But if that changes a little bit, and if Denver prioritizes Noah Fant because he's such he's an amazing athlete, then we could see him take that next jump. Yeah. So he's an interesting tight end to take late as well.
Yeah, hopefully you can get him late. Noah Fant is extremely talented. We just hope that the situation is good enough for him. All right, that is Dave Richard. I'm Adam Azer. This is Fantasy Football Today in 5. Jacob Gibbs joins us this weekend for some player profile.